Almost no one likes to hear this, but it's true. Most people don't think for themselves. They react, they repeat patterns, they respond to invisible stimuli as if they were conscious choices. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he realized that the world is not driven by good intentions, but by fear, desire, scarcity, and convenience. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, reveals something uncomfortable. While 95% live believing they are in control, only 5% know exactly which strings are being pulled. And the most curious thing is that these strings are not obvious. They are subtle, silent, and socially accepted. Perhaps you've experienced this firsthand. Situations where you said yes without knowing exactly why. Decisions that seemed like your own, but later sounded strange. People who, without raising their voices, always come out on top. This is no coincidence, it's a method. The end justifies the means, and the most effective means today are not brute force, but applied psychology. Better to be feared than loved, not in the literal sense, but in the mental sense. Those who understand the game don't beg, don't chase after, and don't over-explain. They observe, they calculate, they act. And yet, they manage to avoid being hated because they make everything seem natural, almost inevitable. This video isn't about manipulation for manipulation's sake. It's about seeing what's always been happening right before your eyes. It's about developing decisions based on real human nature, aligning virtue and fortune, using constant adaptability, and building inner power before any external power. Here, you'll learn the same principles that shape leaders, negotiators, and silent strategists, those who never seem desperate, are never too available, and always end up in control of the situation. If you apply even a portion of what follows, your perspective on people, relationships, and choices will simply never be the same. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos. It's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul. An invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He begins by explaining something that almost no one accepts at first. Excessive presence erodes value. In the social and professional arena, Machiavelli already observed that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires understanding how people truly react, not how they say they react. When someone is always there, always available, always ready, the other person's brain gets used to it. And what is predictable becomes scenery. This is where strategic absence comes in, leaving the scene at the right moment so that your return has weight. It's not disappearing out of spite, it's calculating. It's understanding that often the end justifies the means, and the most elegant means is to be missed without making a drama. Those who master this learn to avoid being hated because they don't abandon. They only manage access, and curiously, they become more respected than those who are constantly chasing approval. In practice, he teaches that scarcity multiplies value because it activates the same psychological mechanism that makes a rare ticket more desirable. A professional who answers everything immediately loses bargaining power. One who organizes schedules, prioritizes, and deliberately delays communicates authority. This is the calculated use of force in a silent version. Instead of saying no, he says, "Not now." Instead of over-explaining, he leaves room. This posture creates the appearance of virtue because it seems balanced, when in reality it is pure strategy. Machiavelli would call this aligning virtù and fortuna, acting intelligently while letting chance work in your favor. This is how you build respect without raising your voice, maintaining the image of someone centered, not needy. He also warns against a common mistake: confusing strategic absence with total coldness. This kills connections. The secret lies in constant adaptability. In some contexts it appears, in others it recedes, like someone who understands that better to be feared than loved doesn't mean being cruel, but being predictable only in commitment to one's own limits. Strong people have their own loyal armies, not dependent crowds. They make presence an event, not an automatic routine, and when someone begins to realize that their attention is not guaranteed, something changes in the air. It is at this point that absence begins to build something bigger, not just personal power, but an image that precedes any word. And from there, something even more delicate comes into play: the invisible empire called reputation. He teaches that reputation is not vanity, it's the infrastructure of power. Machiavelli understood that in any social game, whoever controls the narrative controls the reactions of others. Politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, makes this clear. People don't judge you by what you are, but by what they believe you are. Therefore, reputation functions like currency. It opens doors even before you knock. When well built, it works on its own, silently protecting you and creating room for error. This is where the appearance of virtue becomes a strategic tool, not an empty charade. It's not about lying, but about selecting which of your traits will be visible and which will remain hidden. Those who ignore this live reacting, those who understand it, begin to anticipate. In practice, he shows that reputation is built with small, repeated decisions, not with grand speeches. Meeting deadlines, keeping one's word, not over-explaining and choosing battles are simple attitudes that communicate authority. A professional who consistently delivers a little above expectations creates an image of reliability. One who disappears when they promise to appear erodes their own symbolic capital. Here, decisions based on real human nature make all the difference. People trust standards, not promises. Therefore, the end justifies the means when the means are consistency. Machiavelli would warn that trying to please everyone is the quickest way to lose respect, and respect is what helps to avoid being hated, paradoxically. When your reputation is clear, fewer people try to test you. He also emphasizes the active defense of reputation. It's not enough to build, you need to protect it. This involves knowing when to be silent, when to clarify, and when to let time do its work. Sometimes, responding to an attack only amplifies its reach. Other times, silence communicates strength. This is the calculated use of force at a symbolic level. Strategic people understand that a solid reputation creates its own loyal armies, allies who defend you without being asked. It's the meeting of virtù and fortuna, where preparation meets opportunity. But there's a crucial detail. A reputation that is too strong and too predictable becomes an easy target. And that's exactly where a principle that separates ordinary players from the truly dangerous ones comes in: the art of never being completely decipherable. He often says, almost as a warning, when others know exactly how you react, you've already lost half the game. Machiavelli observed that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires understanding an uncomfortable fact. People test limits all the time. If they know you always forgive, they will make more mistakes. If they know you always react forcefully, they will learn to provoke you. Predictability transforms any virtue into weakness. Therefore, better to be feared than loved is not about brute fear, but about calculated uncertainty. When no one knows for sure whether you will advance or retreat, most prefer not to take the risk. And so, without direct confrontation, you preserve energy and also avoid being hated because you don't need to crush anyone publicly. In practice, it teaches you to alternate roles according to the context, as Machiavelli himself suggested when speaking of the lion and the fox. There are times when firmness is necessary. At others, subtlety wins. This is constant adaptability applied to daily life. A simple example: at work, someone pressures you aggressively. Instead of always reacting the same way, you can respond with strategic silence, a disconcerting question, or a partial agreement. This calculated use of force breaks patterns and keeps others in doubt. The end justifies the means when the means is emotional intelligence. Predictability is comfortable, but it comes at a high price. Those who want control need to accept the discomfort of not being easily labeled. He also warns that unpredictability is not chaos. On the contrary, it stems from self-control. Impulsive people are predictable precisely because they always explode. Truly strategic people choose when to show emotion and when to show nothing. This reinforces the appearance of virtue. They seem balanced while observing everything. Thus they build their own loyal armies because allies feel protected by someone who doesn't act impulsively. It's the marriage between virtù and fortuna, inner preparation with environmental awareness. But there's an even more subtle point in this game. Even being unpredictable, acting out of turn, destroys everything. And that's where a lesson that separates amateurs from true strategists comes in. Understanding that time is often worth more than force. He makes it clear from the start, acting correctly at the wrong time is the same as acting wrongly. Machiavelli already warned that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires reading the scenario, not emotional haste. Many people believe that power is intensity, when in fact it is precision. Timing transforms a simple action into a decisive move. A word spoken too early becomes noise, spoken too late becomes weakness. That is why often the end justifies the means, and the most powerful means is knowing how to wait. He who masters time does not need to explain himself, nor impose himself. He observes, evaluates, and when he acts, it seems inevitable. Thus, he maintains respect and even manages to avoid being hated, because he does not act on impulse, but out of strategic necessity. In practice, it teaches patience under pressure as a trainable skill. In negotiations, for example, those who respond too quickly reveal anxiety. Those who hold back their response create an advantage. A silence of a few hours can be worth more than a perfect argument. This is the calculated use of force in its purest form. Instead of always accelerating, he learns when to break. Instead of attacking, he takes a step back to see the whole picture. Decisions based on real human nature show that people confuse calmness with weakness until they realize they were being led. That's where the appearance of virtue emerges. It looks like self-control, but it's refined strategy. Those who know the right time rarely need to raise their voice. He also emphasizes that timing requires prior preparation. There is no passive waiting, there is only silent preparation. While others wear themselves out, he builds his own loyal armies, organizes information, and strengthens his position. It's the perfect meeting of virtù and fortuna. When the opportunity arises, he is already ready. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for precision, not brutality. Force used out of time generates resistance. Used at the right moment, it generates acceptance. But there's a detail that many ignore. Even with perfect timing, the surrounding environment can sabotage everything. And this leads to an uncomfortable truth. No one grows beyond the circle they tolerate. He speaks of this with an almost uncomfortable frankness. No one grows isolated from the environment they frequent. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, begins with the company that shapes our daily decisions. The 5 closest people function as an invisible mirror, reflecting habits, beliefs, and even mental limitations. When this circle normalizes mediocrity, complaining about one's own progress becomes self-deception. The end justifies the means here is not about coldly discarding people, but about recognizing that proximity is power. Those who associate with those who don't dream big learn, without realizing it, to diminish their own dreams. And little by little, the mental ceiling becomes a real ceiling. In practice, he explains that proximity is equivalent to programming. Conversations shape thoughts, thoughts shape actions. If the circle is constantly complaining, justifying failures, or ridiculing ambition, this seeps in as constant noise. Decisions based on real human nature show that we are creatures of imitation. Therefore, choosing relationships is a form of calculated use of force. You don't force anyone to change, you only change the environment that influences you. A simple example: swapping an hour a week with stagnant people for a conversation with someone who actually gets things done already alters the mental pattern. Books like Think and Grow Rich or The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People help, but interaction accelerates the process. Thus you build your own loyal armies that grow along with you. He also warns about a sensitive point. Growing up changes the dynamics of relationships, and this generates discomfort. Some feel threatened, others try to pull you back to your old place. This is where better to be feared than loved comes in a psychological sense. It's better to be respected for maintaining boundaries than loved for diminishing yourself. Avoiding being hated requires elegance, not humiliating, not over-explaining, just adjusting the distance. This posture maintains the appearance of virtue while protecting your trajectory. It's virtue and fortune in action, with constant adaptability. But even surrounded by the right people, there's something even more refined in the power game, not controlling people directly, but rather the choices they believe they are making. He begins by dismantling a common myth. Nobody likes to be ordered around, but almost everyone accepts being led. Machiavelli already understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, is far from direct imposition. Forcing obedience generates resistance. Structuring choices generates cooperation. That's why the end justifies the means when the means are psychological intelligence. Whoever offers limited options, all favorable to themselves, creates a sense of freedom while maintaining control. This preserves relationships and helps avoid being hated because the other person believes they decided alone. The most sophisticated power is that which doesn't seem like power. In practice, he demonstrates how this works in everyday life. In a negotiation, instead of asking, "Do you accept?" he suggests, "Would you prefer to move forward now or align the details tomorrow?" Both options serve the purpose. At work, instead of imposing tasks, he presents scenarios. If we do it this way, we gain time. If we do it that way, we gain security. This is the calculated use of force, not through pressure, but through the design of choices. Decisions based on real human nature indicate that people want to feel autonomous, even when they are being guided. This creates an appearance of virtue, because the leader seems fair and democratic, when in reality he is being strategic. He emphasizes that control through illusion demands absolute self-control. Whoever loses patience gives up the game. Better to be feared than loved here takes on another form, being respected for clarity, not authoritarianism. Over time, this posture builds its own loyal armies because people feel part of the process, not victims of it. It's the meeting of virtu and fortuna with constant adaptability, adjusting the discourse according to the profile of whoever is in charge. But there's an even more subtle detail. The more control you exert without being noticed, the more careful you need to be with the access you grant. And that's exactly where a paradoxical force comes in: vulnerability, when used with surgical precision. He begins by shattering a dangerous belief. Vulnerability is not about exposing oneself indiscriminately, but about choosing exactly what to show and to whom. Machiavelli would never advocate naivete. He would advocate for reading the situation. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that revealing everything weakens, but revealing nothing isolates. Power lies in the middle ground. When vulnerability is calculated, it creates connection without opening flanks. The end justifies the means here means using truth as a tool, not as an impulsive confession. Whoever understands this achieves closeness without losing authority and also avoids being hated because they seem human, not inaccessible. In practice, he explains that strategic disclosure generates identification. A leader who admits a specific, already overcome mistake conveys both learning and security. An entrepreneur who shares a past difficulty and not an open wound inspires trust. This is the calculated use of emotional power. Decisions based on real human nature show that people trust more those who demonstrate awareness of their own limitations than those who pose as perfect. This attitude builds an appearance of virtue as it sounds honest, mature, and balanced. It's not gratuitous exposure, it's a well-positioned narrative. And narrative, as we've already seen, is power. He also makes it clear that access is a privilege, not a right. Strategic vulnerability goes hand in hand with clear boundaries. Not everyone deserves to know what's going on behind the scenes. Better to be feared than loved. In this context means being respected for not emotionally exaggerating in any environment. With this, he builds his own loyal armies, few but reliable. It's virtu and fortuna operating with constant adaptability. In some circles, he shows himself. In others, he remains opaque. This keen reading of others prepares the ground for something even more decisive in the game of power: the ability to speak the right language to the right person. It begins with a simple and uncomfortable truth. People are not moved by what you want, but by what they want. Machiavelli already implied that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires translation, not imposition. Speaking your own language all the time is comfortable but ineffective. Real power is born when you understand the other's value system and frame your proposal within it. The end justifies the means. Here is not crude manipulation, it's strategic alignment. When the other feels they are gaining something relevant, resistance falls. And so you advance without friction, maintaining respect and still managing to avoid being hated because nobody likes to feel they've lost. In practice, it teaches you to map interests before opening your mouth. In a negotiation, while many defend technical arguments, the strategist observes: does the other person want status, security, time, or money? A manager wants predictability. A creative person wants freedom. An investor wants a clear return. Decisions based on real human nature show that the same request changes in strength depending on the packaging. That's where the calculated use of force comes in. You don't change your objective, you change the language. This skill creates an appearance of virtue because it seems like genuine empathy, when in reality it's accurate reading. People feel that you understand them, and this builds invisible bridges. He emphasizes that speaking someone else's language is not about losing your identity. On the contrary, it's constant adaptability in action. Those who insist on being understood without adapting live frustrated lives. Those who learn to translate create their own loyal armies because people begin to see you as someone who facilitates, not complicates. It's virtu and fortuna working together, psychological preparation with social opportunity. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for effectiveness, not stubbornness. But there's a detail that few realize. Understanding someone else's language requires information, and whoever controls information controls the entire game. It begins with a straightforward observation. Whoever knows more almost always decides better. Machiavelli already understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, is based on information asymmetry. It's not physical strength nor pure charisma. It's context. When you understand the environment, the people involved, their hidden interests and their fears, you make several moves ahead. The end justifies the means here. It's not cheap espionage, it's strategic curiosity. Observing more than speaking, listening more than opining, and recording patterns transforms information into a silent advantage. And silent advantage helps avoid being hated, because you don't need to expose anyone to win. In practice, it teaches you to gather information as a habit, not as an event. Paying attention to how someone reacts under pressure, what they avoid answering, which topics ignite enthusiasm or discomfort, all of this is given. Decisions based on real human nature show that people reveal themselves between the lines. An attentive leader learns more in informal meetings than in official presentations. Reading the right books also accelerates this process. Biographies, history, practical psychology, works like The Prince, The 48 Laws of Power, or even studies on body language broaden your repertoire. This is the calculated use of intellectual force, creating the appearance of virtue. You only seem attentive when in reality you are building a map of the terrain. He also warns about the other side of the coin, protecting your own information. Talking too much gives away an advantage. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for discretion. Not everyone needs to know your next steps, your weaknesses, or your strategies. Those who keep information secret build their own loyal armies based on trust, not exposure. It's virtu and fortuna in their purest form, with constant adaptability, revealing when convenient, remaining silent when necessary. But all collected information loses value if it is not used well. And this leads to a final rule that few follow, but which defines who truly plays to the end. Finish everything you start. He closes this cycle with a rule that seems simple, but separates amateurs from strategists. Nothing corrodes power more than leaving loose ends. Machiavelli knew that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, punishes inconstancy. Those who start but don't finish convey indecision, and indecision invites interference. Unfinished projects become loopholes. Vague promises become ammunition against you. The end justifies the means. Here takes on a practical meaning. To conclude is to protect. When something is finalized clearly, there is no room for interpretations, attacks, or unwanted revisions. Thus, you preserve authority and also avoid being hated because you eliminate future conflicts before they even arise. In practice, it teaches an obsession with closure. Unresolved issues drain mental energy and keep you stuck in the past. An agreement needs to be documented. A difficult conversation needs a clear ending. A project needs objective delivery. Decisions based on real human nature show that people respect those who close cycles, even when the decision is not pleasing. This is the calculated use of force, not through harshness, but through precision. Those who finish convey security. It creates an appearance of virtue because it seems organized, reliable, and solid. In the long run, this builds your own loyal armies, people who trust you because they know you don't leave anything hanging. He also warns that finishing is not about rushing, but about concluding with discernment. Sometimes ending means ending a relationship, abandoning a project, or changing course. Better to be feared than loved, in this sense, means being respected for firm decisions, not for pleasing everyone. It's virtu and fortuna working together with constant adaptability to recognize when to persist and when to end. Those who master this are not held hostage by the past or the opinions of others. And when all cycles are closed, something curious happens. The mind is freed, the positioning is consolidated, and the ground is ready to see the whole picture. It is precisely there that all the pieces fit together, and the true calling begins to reveal itself. Now comes the part that almost no one does, applying it. Knowledge without action is just intellectual entertainment. Machiavelli made it clear that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, rewards not those who merely understand the game, but those who play it consciously. Everything you've seen here revolves around the same key: getting out of autopilot, perceiving when scarcity generates value, when timing is worth more than force, when silence speaks louder than 1,000 explanations. The end justifies the means, and the most powerful means is to act with intention. Not to control people out of vanity, but to avoid being controlled by ignorance. The difference between the 99% and the 1% isn't supernatural talent, but small choices made consistently. While most seek acceptance, the 1% understand when it's best to step back. While many want to be loved at any cost, few understand the true meaning of better to be feared than loved, to be respected, not exploited. They protect their reputation, build their own loyal armies, use the appearance of virtue without losing themselves in it, and make decisions based on real human nature, not pretty speeches. And above all, they practice constant adaptability, because the world changes and those who don't change with it become disposable. Now the question is straightforward, and there's no escaping it. In what situations in your life have you been handing over power without realizing it? Where are you too available, too predictable, or too misinformed? What would change if you applied just one of these principles this week? Think about it honestly. If this content has opened your eyes in any way, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue learning to see the game as it's really played. Because, like it or not, someone is always using these tricks. The only real choice is deciding which side you're going to be on.